Welcome in, belly up, have a seat, and grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. This is episode 165, our Week 3 Rewind. And it's my great pleasure to welcome back to the bar Mr. Bernie, a.k.a. Team B.
I'm Cuban B. Yes, Cuban B.
A.k.a. First Place. How are you doing tonight, Bernie?
I am living a semi-charmed fantasy football kind of life.
Oh, nice. Is that Third Eye Blind? Is that who that is?
That is, man, you're good. You're
right.
on point, Mike.
Very good. All right, guys, once again.
That's like some DJ Nice stuff going right there.
There you go. All right, we have once again a pretty full episode for you guys. We will start off with some player news. We'll recap and rewind week number 3 of the Wingman Fantasy Football League. Take a look at those updated standings. We'll take a gander at our Goose-o-meter. Strap in for a Mike Rant. We'll take a glance at some waiver wire targets, play a little game we like to call Please Hold or Time to Go, and we'll let you know who took the high score and who's on top of the current standings in our Wingman Jam contest. And then we will preview the Thursday night game where the Seattle Seahawks traveled down to Arizona to take on division rivals, the Cardinals. But before we do any of that, let's make sure that everybody is in the room. Wingman Assemble! All right, now that everyone is here, let's get... actually, there's a theme I want to go through. The theme for week 3 was that scores fell back down to earth. 90 points was good enough for the wins, and we had some major injuries this week. All right, let's get into some... before we get into player news, we've got some league news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, we have a team name change in the Wingman Fantasy Football League. Ben's brilliant team, he's held on to this name for the last year plus, has now changed his name to Fire Billy Napier. He's showing his frustration out in his team name. So, Ben, we're with you here, man. I hope you're feeling okay.
Okay, I got a question here. Hold on a second. As someone who lives in fantasy football world nonstop every day, who is Billy Napier?
Billy Napier is the embattled head coach for the University of Florida. We mentioned him in our 4th and long where I substituted for you.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were lazy and didn't get it done. But other than that, no, I'm kidding.
That's right. Deep dive into college football does nothing for my fantasy.
That's true. It's early scouting, and all we have to know is don't draft any players who have been coached by Billy Napier. Okay. All right, now let's get into some player news. Starting off, guys, we're going to start in right and heavy here. We got James Conner. Has been placed on the IR with a severe ankle injury and is now out for the rest of the season. Najee Harris was also been placed on season-ending IR as he suffered a torn Achilles in last week's game. CeeDee Lamb suffered a high ankle sprain and at the moment is projected to miss 2 to 4 weeks. The Cowboys are still contemplating whether or not to put Lamb onto the IR. And another big-time receiver here, Mike Evans, who suffered a hamstring injury as he left this past Sunday's game, is expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks. They got pretty good news with the MRI. It's a low-grade hamstring strain here, but nonetheless, he's probably going to miss anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks. What do you have on these players? 2 guys out for the year and 2 big-time receivers probably going to miss 2 to 5 weeks here.
Yeah, that's a tough sledding there for those running. This, though, you're going to have Trey Benson becomes the lead back with 125 yards through 3 weeks. Amari DeMarcado serves as a pass-catching complement there. I don't think there's going to be a huge game script impact with this. I think that you're going to basically maintain the balanced attack that the Cardinals have been showing, which should benefit Najee Harris, Amari, and Hampton. I mean, if you got him and he was on your bench, he probably got you a lot of points on your bench. Looks like he's going to go. That's going to be a good thing there. CD Lamb. What do we like with CD Lamb? We like Jalen Tolbert, Kavonte Turbin. They're moving up on the depth chart. There are some game script concerns though. Cowboys are now 1-2. There's more passing volumes, so potentially boosting Pickens' ceiling a little bit. So we'll see if he can handle that pressure. And then Mike Evans. This is another tough one. It seems like he's going to be just fine. I don't think Godwin, he could return week 4. Do we know anything about that? Sterling Shepard, his increase.
Yeah, we're not entirely sure when Godwin's coming back, but the news has been positive. They say he can come back anytime. He could start playing this week. I think they'll probably have him sit one more week. But with the injury to Evans here, they might consider, if he's ready to put him out there, they're going to need some help on the receiving core.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, moving along here, we've got Terry McLaurin suffered a quad injury. This one was a little more ambiguous as there wasn't a lot of news on it. At last I see, he's actually looking to get some multiple opinions to determine the severity of the injury. That means you didn't like the first opinion when you're looking for other ones. His future status at the moment is uncertain, but at the moment there is a chance that he may be out for week number 4. We've got Tyron Tracy was dealing with a chest injury going into this past week games. Had a tough tackle fall on the sideline, dislocated his shoulder, and now he's expected to be out anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks. Juwan Jennings, who's dealing with multiple ailments, is still considered day-to-day with no real update on his potential week availability. We'll go these next two since they're related here. We've got Brock Purdy is expected to return to practice this week as he deals with shoulder and toe injury. We're not sure if he's going to be ready or not, but they might move him forward here because Mac Jones, who took his place, is actually also considered day-to-day as he aggravated a knee strain during the last game against the Cardinals. All right, what do you have here on Terry McLaurin, Tyron Tracy, and then the 49ers, Jennings, Purdy, and Jones?
Yeah, 49ers, they're always on this news here. Terry McLaurin, Luke McCaffrey, he's going to emerge as a deep threat. Chris Moore, Debo Samuel, and get increased target share. Commanders, they might shift to a pass-heavy without their top receivers benefiting. Secondary options might get a little bit of play here. All right, Tyrone Tracy, I got one name for you. One name, one word. Scatterboo. That's it. Moving on. Let's see here. We got the 49ers here. Okay, Jennings. We got Ricky Pearsall, Kendrick Bourne. They're going to be perfectly fine going through. If Mac Jones is going, I don't have a worry there too much. The only real worry I have going forward with the 49ers is what does this say? What does this do for their future plans with Brock Purdy? Once Jennings is good, once Kittle is good, if Mac Jones is playing decent ball and they're winning games, does Brock Purdy just come right back in, or does Mac Jones give him a little run for his money? Because Mac doesn't look bad at all.
I think the injuries are going to dictate who's playing here since they're both banged up. Whichever one's on the better side of questionable is going to play.
Right, but what if Mac Jones is playing and he's playing good, and they're both healthy, does Purdy just automatically get that sack?
Yep.
If Mac Jones is not losing, yeah.
They just paid him a ton of money. They just paid him a ton of money not to sit behind Mac Jones. I'll tell you that. That's true. It's a fair question to at least ask, but I think Purdy's their guy, obviously. Now, if they lose 3 games in a row with Purdy and Mac Jones comes in or something, then we'll talk about it. But right now, they're both undefeated, so we'll go from there, I guess. All right, going back to the Commanders here, Jaden Daniels. Okay. It's a little early on these practice reports here, guys, because they technically don't start practice till Wednesday. These are all speculative participations. So we got Jaden Daniels is still considered day-to-day, and we won't get a better update until the Wednesday practice report. Now going to the New York Jets QB situation here. They don't play till Monday night. So again, the news reports aren't going to be clear until later in the week. But there's reports hinting that Tyrod Taylor may continue getting the start on Monday against the Dolphins, even if Fields clears the concussion protocol. We have a couple more quarterbacks here. J.J. McCarthy has already been ruled out for week 4, meaning Carson Wentz is going to make his second consecutive start in the Ireland game. Bernie, don't forget, you've got Minnesota Vikings, and they have an early game on Sunday morning as they play at, I think, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time against the Steelers. We'll stop here to break this up. So we got Jaden Daniels, the New York Jets quarterbacks, and McCarthy is out again. Carson Wentz back in the starting lineup.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to start here with Jaden Daniels. Mariota, he had a strong week 3 performance. So I don't think that there's a super sense of urgency to rush Daniels back. Mariota has similar skill set, obviously not as elite. I'll use that in air quotes there as Jaden Daniels. But still, he can win you a game, and you don't have to change too much going forward. Justin Fields, it's the exact opposite. There is a sense of urgency here for some sort of offensive production, and I don't know who's going to do it. This might be I don't know how you say this. What the saying is, where you're going in to play the Dolphins, a false sense of security, I guess. Putting up numbers against the Dolphins and then moving forward, thinking you can win with whatever's going on there. You're still going to start Wilson. You're not probably going to start Allen. Breece Hall. I don't know. What do you think about that? Breece Hall or Braylon Allen on that? Who plays better with Tyrod Taylor?
I think Breece Hall has shown that he's getting most of the work. They haven't been very effective. They've had a couple tough matchups. I don't want to get too excited here, especially that I'm very depleted in running back, but I'm pretty excited about the outlook for Breece Hall this Monday night.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. Tyrod Taylor is not a bad quarterback. The offense in general is just bad. And then J.J. McCarthy, are we mad at Carson Wentz? He led the Vikings 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. I don't think the Vikings should worry. Their defense is going to hold strong for the rest of the season, so they can take their time and figure out what's going on. So Carson Wentz is a good play. Everybody else on that team should be standard, just not a high ceiling.
Gotcha. All right, we got some. This news is a little more interesting. Jackson Dart has now been named the starter for the New York Giants for week number 4, as Russell Wilson has been sent to the bench. Zach Charbonnet has returned to a full practice. Once again, I don't know if this is actually a speculative practice or not, but they do play on Thursday night, do the Seahawks. So I kind of think that they do have they did get a practice in. But the fact that he went from not playing to full practice on the first day availability is very interesting to me. I'm wondering if they were keeping him out because they had the short week, so they had ensured they had at least one rested running back going into the short week. Not sure, just speculating here, but nonetheless, he did get a full practice on the short week against Arizona, and Jordan Addison has been activated. The 3-game suspension for Addison is now concluded, and he is back on the active roster for the Vikings and should be right into the lineup on the early Sunday game. Luckily, these are injury related. This is kind of nice. We got a new starter in New York. We've got Charbonnet back to muddle up your Seattle backfield, and Jordan Addison. Keep whatever opinions I have about his activities off the field. He's a very productive receiver, and he's back on the field.
That might affect. I'll go right to Jordan Addison here. That might affect Jalen Naylor a little bit. It might affect Adam Thielen if anybody has Adam Thielen on their team. So it's got wide receiver 2 upside, but we haven't seen him play with either guy yet, with McCarthy or Wentz, so we don't know what that connection is going to look like. So I would start him right away unless you're desperate. Yeah. And then Zach Charbonnet, I think you were probably spot on. That's excellent analysis. I didn't even think about that. I'm going to have to obviously wait further in the week and see how healthy Kenneth Walker is. Just putting up yards and getting beat up. And then Jackson Dart. So they got a little something, obviously Jackson Dart gives them a fresh look. I don't know if he gives them any more of a chance of winning. This is the Fire Dayball season, I believe. It's just bad over there. But I did propose a trade last week, and I offered Caleb Williams and Rashad White for Scadaboo and Russ, and I was turned down. What do you think about that?
Scatterstock stock is rising here. It depends on what that's King George. That depends on what she needs for quarterback. Because Caleb Williams has had a couple big games. I don't know if I trust him, but if you have no quarterbacks, that is an upgrade there. But now she's got a star running back that came out of nowhere.
I know. So she did good. I was a little upset. I was like, man, you could have had Caleb, Rashad White maybe in the future, but she said no. I guess she's as high on Scadaboo as I am. Get in the comments, King George, and let us know how much you love Scadaboo.
I actually made an offer last week as well to try and get Scadaboo to try and get. Like I said, I told you I had a 3D chess move coming up. I tried Scadaboo to go to be the intermediator trade with you for something else. Didn't work either.
Yeah, she probably just saw the value. She's like, everybody wants this guy. I'm going to keep him.
All right, it is now time to take a look back as we go through the week 3 rewind of the Wingman Fantasy Football League. First match, Katie's King George up against Ben's newly named Fire Billy Napier. I believe both these teams were 1-1 going into the week. And this one was pretty close as King George defeated Ben's Fire Billy Napier 90.96 to 82.27.
Week 3 Rewind.
All right, on to our next game here. We have Jeff's Always Right. Has been playing quite well up against Nick's Waddle Away. And this one, Always Right took this one down 98.51 to 88.67 for almost a 10-point victory. Unfortunately for Waddle Away with that 88 points, he was the highest scoring loser of the week. But he also, with that 82 points, was the lowest score of the week.
Nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
All right, now let's get into some of our featured games for this week. Starting off, we had a high-profile game.
Right,
Corey's May Daddy 2's up against Brian's Under 40. Both these teams came into the week undefeated at 2-0. This is our only matchup between undefeated teams. And May Daddy 2's took this one down to 96.16 to 87.27. This is now 3 wins in a row for May Daddy 2's. All right, what players helped get May Daddy 2's to that in this week? A high score of 96.16 points. Starting off with start of the week, as declared by yours truly, Jordan Mason stepped up with the injury to Aaron Jones, getting 23.6 points. And James Cook, when we talk about these holdouts, he came back maybe early enough. We have to find that line. He came back with 2 weeks left instead of 1 week left because he's been a stud. James Cook at 19.3 points. And the breakout is official, guys. Jackson Smith and Jigba at 18.1 points. Why is that not playing? Let's try it again. With 18.1 points for the third consecutive game being on the top performer list.
He's on fire!
All right, there it is. There you go. Jackson the Jigba is on fire. It wasn't all good news, though, for the May Daddy 2's. He did have a couple of duds, starting off with Calvin Risky. There's no risk here at all. He is always a dud here at 3.2 points. The San Francisco defense had as many points as they did ACL tears at 1 point for the San Francisco defense. There were no bench players who could have improved May Daddy 2's scores, and he did have one injury of Mac Jones, who aggravated that knee injury.
Oh, no.
But May Daddy 2's is also the manager for Brock Purdy. So he's got 2 half 49er quarterbacks. Hopefully by the end of the week, he'll have at least one. All right, now for under 40, again, came in at 2-0. Had a decent score considering the losers here. Was the third highest losing score here. He had Garrett Wilson as a top performer at 19.4 points. And Rome wasn't built in a doomsday. For the third straight week has made the list at 13.7 points.
He's on fire!
And we have Devontae Adams. Oh, Devontae Adams. He's actually playing pretty well with the Rams here. It's his second week on the top performer list at 13.1 points.
He's heating up!
There were no duds in the lineup for Brian's under 40. He did have one strong player on his bench. I don't know what his other kicker got. This might have been a lot closer. Matt Gay had 15.2 points on the bench, and there were no injuries for Brian's under 40. What do you have on this game between two Titans here, both 2-0 going into week 3?
Yeah, I think the lineup optimization for May Daddy 2s is what put him over the edge there. Even though I think I'll take the under 40. He's probably got a little bit more depth overall on his team. He just, he's got left.
All right, this next game was just the opposite. We had two managers who started out the season 0-2, looking for their first victory of the season, and this was a stress fest for yours truly, as Michael's Amazing Spidey went up against Andrew's Crazy Fish, and Crazy Fish was alive down to the Monday night game as he was down by 13.5 points with his kicker, Tyler Loop, in the lineup. But Loop could only get 7.1 points, and Amazing Spidey took this one down in the upset.
Average Joe's wins in a shocking upset.
I feel shocked.
The final score here was 94.37 to 87.99, and this was our closest game of the week at just over 6.3 points. Unfortunately for Andrew's Crazy Fish, he has now lost 3 games in a row.
You're as cold as ice.
All right, what players helped Amazing Spidey take this one down? Starting off with Draco Mofo. Drake May.
It's gonna be May.
Had 23.22 points, and he has had his second consecutive game on the top performer list.
He's heating up.
Amazing Spidey's receivers finally woke up as Nico Collins had 20.4 points, and A.J. Brown had 19.9 points. And he had Spencer Schrader, who he picked up off the waiver wire for his third straight game with more than double figures here at 11 points.
He's on fire.
All right, he still did have a couple of duds as Nick Chubb only could get 5.5 points, and Deebo Samuel, after 2 strong games to start the season, only had 3.9 points. His best performer on the bench was the Tampa Bay defense, who had 12.5 points, and Amazing Spidey had one of the biggest injuries in this week. Maybe not the biggest player, although it's one of the top 3, but combination of top player for duration of time out. James Conner is out for the year with the ankle injury.
Uh-oh.
All right, let's look at what players tried to fight the best they could for Crazy Fish. He didn't have too much going well here. He had Ricky Pearsall get 15.7 points, and the master defense streamer once again does it with the Indianapolis defense getting 13.25 points.
We'll cross the streams.
Excuse me, Egon. You said crossing the streams was bad.
Crazy Fish pretty much played his ideal lineup here with no duds in his lineup and no bench players that could have really helped. The only good news here for Crazy Fish, other than is that he made it through the week without any new injuries. What do you have on this battle between two winless teams? One of us finally got a win in the ledger.
Finally got that thing. You left some points on the bench in a close contest though, so you just got to be real careful there. I think the Monday night game really kind of set the table for whether you were going to win or lose just based on the amount of touchdowns that were being scored. I really, you did a good job. I would not. You've got a little bit of depth at your quarterback position. So you want to look at possibly upgrading your running back position there.
I'm trying.
While the name recognition and value to it. So, and then Crazy Fish, he's got to do something drastic. 0-3, that's it's a narrow loss, but still your season's a little bit in jeopardy. But I don't want to say completely out of the realm. But we'll see what happens.
All right, our next game of our featured game has the biggest blowout of the week as Bernie's Team B came in at 2-0 and in first place, averaging, about 120 points a game. Continued that trend this week, scoring 119.78. Defeats Jimerson's Red Sox Nation, who scored 86.07. Bernie now is at 3-0, while Red Sox Nation falls to 1-2. And this was the biggest blowout of the week of a 33-point differential.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
With this dominating performance for the third straight week, Bernie has now won 3 games in a row. All right, let's see what players helped Bernie get to the highest score of the week for the second time this season, and except for a quarter of a point last week, would have been 3 straight weeks as the highest scoring team. Starting off with the stud and honestly, arguably the MVP of this early part of the season, Jonathan Taylor at 31.3 points.
He's heating up.
The Minnesota defense started the Sunday action on early, getting a touchdown or 2 right when the game started. 25 points for the Minnesota defense. Kenneth Walker, Texas Ranger, didn't get the yards, but he got the scores, getting 2 touchdowns, getting himself up to 17.5 points.
He's heating up.
And Amon-Ra St. Brown is so fun to watch, makes big play after big play with a huge 4th down conversion in the last 3 minutes of the Monday night game, finished with 17.2 points.
He's heating up.
The only dud for Bernie this week was Zay Flowers at 2.3 points, and he could have had even more points here as his backup quarterback in terms of this week. Caleb Williams outscored his starter by, I don't know exactly, about 12 points or so. At 29.12 points, Caleb Williams was on the bench. Bernie is a stud this year, and he made it through the week without any new injuries, so he should go into week 4 on a high. Now for Jimerson's Red Sox Nation, he had some strong performers here. Josh Allen had 23.2 points. Bernie was trying to avoid the 30-point mark, and he did that, but 23 is still a solid start. Michael Pittman, for the second time out of this season so far, is on this list at 16.3, and the Pittsburgh defense had 10.25 points. There were no duds in the starting lineup for Red Sox Nation, but he did have some players on the bench that could have helped. Mariota wouldn't have helped in terms of outperforming Josh Allen, but nonetheless, a strong showing for Mariota in his first start of the year at 22.28 points. But Marion Hampton got unleashed against the Denver Broncos this week, had 21.9 points. All right, Bernie, I have to say, you are the class of the league. What do you have on this matchup?
Yeah, I'm lucky that the football gods have not deemed injuries upon me yet. So that's always a good thing. I've had solid matchups coming up. You know, some tight ones like Jared Goff going up against the Baltimore defense, but still, it comes down to Jonathan Taylor and Minnesota. I got a little consistency going there with Jonathan Taylor. Minnesota showed up big for me. You know, played a tough game matchup there with Red Sox Nation. Saquon Barkley, though, that's the really what's going on here. You know, I said it last episode. Is it going to be Saquon's on, Brown is off, and then when Brown is on, Saquon is off? Like, what's going to happen here? Can they both? Can this team give points to both players, you know, at the same time? And not even talking about the other receiver. I can't even think of his name at the moment.
Devontae Smith?
Devontae Smith, yeah. Like, is that too many assets? And what do? Do you start packaging them up and getting some trade value out of them now so you can create more depth matchups going into the future? That's what I would be thinking about.
I think the Eagles just spam whatever's working. They just do the same thing over and over again. And until they're like, oh, we can't. I mean, it took them forever to get out of not throwing the ball in that first half. And they always get all their offense in one half, it seems. This time happening the second half. Usually it's the first half, and then they just sit on it from there. But this time they had to turn it around because they were down by so much in that first half.
Yeah, and you know, and just like Lion Eyes with Red Sox Nation, obviously it's not as dramatic, but Amarion Hampton, that's a huge positive that came out of Week 3 for him.
Yep. All right. So now let's get into, now that we have all these matchups done here, let's take a look at the updated standings. Bernie, can you look at these? Why don't you give us some notes that you hear where some guys settled in after Week 3?
Yeah, I sure can. All right, let's see what we got here. The number 1 spot seems to be the same. The number 2 spot seems to be the same, but Always Right has jumped up to the number 3 spot from the number 4 spot. And last week's number 3 spot under under 40, dropped down to the 5th spot. And then down at the bottom, Lion Eyes has now occupied last place. Crazy Fish is right there with him at 13, and Cubert's Rage at 12. So Amazing Spidey basically jumps up and into the 10th spot, dropping everybody else down.
Yeah, that was as bad as 0-2 or 0-3 feels like. You're even looking at this, like I'm only in our league, we have 14 teams, so 7 teams make the playoffs. For our managers that are listening here, I know the Yahoo says 8 because they don't let you do odd numbers unless you pay like $30 to get a premium feature, but I can do it on my own. So keep that in mind. It says 8 make the playoffs, but only 7 do. So so all of their top 7 here have winning records. I'm looking here at King George is in 7th at 2-1. So at the moment, there's no 1 and 2 teams that have enough points to be in that playoff mix right now.
Oh, good to know. Top 7. I should read those league settings every year.
You reach the bottom, you get candy. All right. It is now time to take a gander at our updated Goose-o-meter.
I'm just goosing along.
All right, the Goose-o-meter is rising. We are now up to 4 as we had 2 new Gooses. Starting with Waddle Way, had CeeDee Lamb, who rolled that ankle on one of the first plays of the game, and he ended up with 0 points. And King George picked up John Parker Romo early on Sunday morning, maybe late Saturday, put him in her lineup, and he came through with a 0. They got the Gooses. All right, guys. It is now time to get into this week's Mike Rant.
Baby Rant. Karen Rant. Monty.
I don't care whose fault it is. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think.
Mike Rant.
All right, guys. The rant for this week is about Marvin Harrison Jr. What? This guy is soft. He's got no dog in him, man. This guy was one of the most heralded wide receivers that come out of the draft in a long time. Number 3 overall pick just a year ago. And this guy has underperformed his entire time in the league. His hands are bad. His route running is bad. His drive is bad. He never comes back to help Kyler Murray when Kyler Murray is scrambling. When he sees him scrambling, most really good receivers fight their way back into the soft spots of the zone to make themselves available to help out their quarterback rather, and he doesn't do it. He just sits there on the sideline. I guess he'll get it when he gets it. He's got no fight in him. I hate to brand this guy so early in his career, but is he this big of a bust? He was supposed to be a can't-miss receiver, and I'll tell you, he can't. What he can miss, catching the ball. This guy drops the ball all the time. Does not perform at the level he should for where he was drafted. He's a number 1 receiver on this team, and he doesn't act like it. He gets outplayed by Zay Jones and Trey McBride. I'm really upset with the fight in this guy. Let's hope he's not a bust. But right now, Marvin Harrison Jr., you are a bust. All right, guys, it is now time to get into some waiver wire targets as we head into week number 4. Just to be fair here with you guys, we had some technical difficulties, so I'm going to have to finish this one up all on my lonesome. Bernie did record this with me, but we had some issues, so I'm going to try and fill in the gaps the best that I can. Starting off with some quarterback waiver wire targets. With the news of Russell Wilson being benched for rookie Jackson Dart, we have to put Jackson Dart on the list of potential pickups here. I'm not sure how much money to put in for this guy, but he is playing the Chargers in week 3. I really don't like the matchup. I think the Chargers are a pretty good defense. It's going to be tough for the rookie guy on his first start. But with all the injuries to the quarterbacks out there, this is someone who's going to play for at least a few weeks in a row, while players like Mariota and Wentz maybe only have a 1 to 2 week lifespan on their seasons here. We have Aaron Rodgers, who's not performing great, but hitting some timely touchdowns and some clutch moments. He is available as well. Another quarterback I do not like for this week, as they are playing against Minnesota in Dublin, an early overseas game on Sunday. Tend to try to stay away from those. We also have Spencer Rattler. We kind of keep forgetting about him, but he has been starting and playing okay, not great. They're playing the Buffalo Bills this next game, so they're going to have to score to try and keep up. You might have a whole second half of garbage time. And as far as I can tell, they are not looking to pull this guy if they are down in games. So Spencer Rattler is a decent pickup. I really don't like the crop of quarterbacks for this week, to be honest with you. But if you are in a bind here, you've got Jackson Dart's going to start for the next maybe the rest of the season, but at least the next 3 weeks. Aaron Rodgers is going to be solid and steady, and Spencer Rattler is going to be on the field as well. Now it's time for the running backs with the injury to James Conner. We've got some running backs to look up. His backup, Trey Benson, is available in most leagues. Fortunately, he is not available in ours, but keep in mind, he is a player who's going to go right into that RB2 slot on your team, especially if you are in need of a starting player. Now the question is, how much do we break the bank to get this player? Personally, I don't think he's that good of a player. He reminds me of a poor man's Kenneth Walker, and it's hard to be a poor man's Kenneth Walker. As long as there's space, he is fast and will hit the hole, but if he does not find the hole, his vision is not particularly great here. And the Thursday night game is not a game I'm looking to play. So you have to make a decision here. If you spend money on him, you're going to have to put him in your lineup to make it worth your while, because I've seen so many times before where our managers will put in a, $35 bid on a backup running back. We'll let him sit 1 week, and then he gets hurt, and then you've wasted your chance to play him. So if you're going to pick him up this week, you're going to have to play him, but I don't like this particular setup this week against the Seattle Seahawks. It is now that time of year where any random running back could be hurt at any time, so it's time to kind of cycle through the bottom of your bench and do some prospective handcuff pickups. These are guys you're going to pick up for half a day on Saturday and through Sunday to see. We're not rooting for people to get hurt, but if someone is going to get hurt, you'd rather have their backup on your team already for a very cheap price instead of having to fight for everybody on the next week. Blake Corum falls in that category. He is a steady runner, getting some more work, and in the worst case scenario of a injury to someone like Kyron Williams, Blake Corum is going to be a high-priced acquisition in the subsequent week. Pick him up now for $1 or less and just stash him on your bench and see what might shake out. The same way goes with Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders this week. Let's see. He has been getting the backup carries in spell of Javonte Williams, so keep in mind, these are not sexy guys, but you can get them for free now and see if they become more valuable later in the week. Chris Rodriguez is still available out there as well. He did start the game, got the first quarter carries, and then their defense kind of took over, so it's a little hard to tell how the running back carries would be split up over the course of a whole game that's competitive, as they got out to a pretty big lead. Tajay Spears might be out there in your league. Remember, this is the last week 4, that he will be out due to the IR. All indications are he will be activated for week 5. And this one is not that sexy, but again, a backup running back that in the chance that the starter might get banged up, Rico Dowdle for the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers have a sweet schedule over the next 4 weeks, and Rico Dowdle, if he gets a chance to play, might be a sneaky start for your team. Of all these guys here, only Trey Benson is the only one that's worth putting in a fab bid for. Maybe Chris Rodriguez. The other guys are more preemptive handcuffs to see what might shake out. Now let's move on to our wide receiver position, and we include tight ends in this as well. This is where we've got some more interesting players here. Trey Tucker had a monster game last week, and I personally don't like chasing points for the types of receivers that are your 2-3 receivers on mediocre teams. However, the Raiders are playing against the Chicago Bears this week, and we mentioned how they are a very plus matchup for wide receivers. Keep in mind, Trey Tucker is on the field 90% of the time, so he is earning his play time, and he's being very effective while he's on the field. Between his good performance last week, his amount of playing time on the field, and the very plus matchup against Chicago this week, go ahead and pay as you will, and don't be afraid to start him in your flex position. Hunter Henry, we've seen this before, has some big games. People pick him up, and then he does nothing for the next 3 weeks. If you can get him at a cheap price, it's worth putting him on your bench, but do not pay for the points that have already come through. They are not your points to get. Christian Watson will be coming off that PUP list for week 5, I'm assuming. It's a little bit of a crowded wide receiver room here, but with Jaden Reed being out, Christian Watson has the potential to be the most explosive wide receiver on the Packers. Pick him up now for free instead of waiting till a week when he's coming back. We have Torrey Horton, Seattle wide receiver, has been turning some heads. This rookie is earning playing time. I think he's actually moved past Cooper Kupp in terms of effectiveness, maybe not in terms of depth chart. They play the Thursday night game against Arizona. If you're going to make that move, you got to do it early because his game is on Thursday. And then we have a pair of Dallas Cowboy receivers. These are guys we're not really looking to pick up quite yet, but definitely keep an eye on them. With CeeDee Lamb being out for the next 2 to 4 weeks, we have Turpin and Jalen Tolbert for the Dallas Cowboys. Not sure how their role is going to shake out here. We've got Tolbert's more of a possession guy. Turpin is your definitely speedster, as he's one of their kick returners here. So maybe watch a week, but keep an eye on which one catches your eye in terms of snap count and or usage. And that might be someone you can pick up before they break out. All right, now let's look at some of our kickers here. We've got 4 kickers that catch my eye. There's actually more of them out there than that, but I don't want to go through too many kickers. We've got Young Shui Koo. Don't forget, he was cut by the Atlanta Falcons. He was signed earlier today by the New York Giants. He's on their practice squad, and Graham Gano is banged up. I speculate here that Young Shui Koo will be the starting kicker this weekend for the New York Giants. We've got Daniel Carlson for the Raiders here. Once again, in a mediocre a good kicker on a mediocre team, but in a plus matchup against the Chicago Bears, there's a decent chance the Raiders will go up and down the field, but they're not quite good enough to get in the end zone every time. Daniel Carson's got a chance for 3 field goals this week. Josh Carty, this is interesting. He had tons of field goals last week, also had 2 blocked kicks. I think his confidence might be a bit shaken, but he does get field goals. They're playing against Indianapolis. That'll be an indoor game with teams going back and forth. They'll have to score every time up and down the field. And Joey Sly on a poor offense, but the Tennessee Titans are just good enough to move it in between the 20s. Joey Sly finds himself near the top of the list in kicker points every week, even though the Tennessee Titans do not score a ton of points. They're playing against the Houston Texans this week, who is a good defense, so I don't like the matchup, but it is an indoor game. Now for some defenses out there that we can look for. We've got the Rams up against the Indianapolis Colts. The Rams, let's face it, they're a good defense. And one of these games, Daniel Jones is going to have a bust day and return to his New York Giant form. This might be that week as the Rams can get after the quarterback. We have the Houston Texans are rostered quite widely in leagues, but if they're available, they're playing against Tennessee this week. And we know Cam Ward tends to get sacked and throw an interception or 2. And I don't like the matchup this week for Cleveland as they're playing against Detroit, a solid offense. But Cleveland after that's got several plus matchups. They're playing Minnesota in week 5. You might say that is not a good matchup, but with the likes of J.J. McCarthy, who's got happy feet and got sacked and has thrown plenty of interceptions, and Carson Wentz is a similar type of erratic player. Cleveland might be they're already a great defense, but from weeks 5 through week 8, they've got very plus matchups. All right, guys, if we're going to pick up these guys, these running backs, these receivers, let's see what players we might have to drop to get them in this segment of It's Please Hold or Time to Go.
You've reached Wingman Fantasy Football. Please hold. Yeah, we're going to have to let you go. So, just pack up your things and leave your key pass on the desk before you leave. Okay? All right.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
All right, we've got a short list of players that might be at the bottom of your roster, and we have to consider if it's worth dropping these guys to pick up some of the players that we were looking at before. Just to make this simple, this list is 4 deep, and it's all receivers, so it'll be a little easier to go through this a little quickly here. We've got Xavier Legette at the bottom of some of our rosters here. He was inactive last week. Not only was he inactive, but he's been ineffective in the times he has been playing. Jalen Coker is coming back soon. I think Xavier Legette, it's up to you if you want to hold on to him, but I'd rather have Trey Tucker or even Torrey Horton if you're looking for a younger player. I'd rather have those guys instead of Xavier Legette. You can always come back to him after a better game later. In my opinion, it is time to let go Xavier Legette.
It's time to go!
All right, our next one is tricky here. We have Cooper Kupp, Seattle wide receiver. He's had he had a decent game in week 2, I believe, a tough go in week 1 and a tough go in week 3. He's on the field, but honestly, Torrey Horton has been way more effective. I would not be actively trying to drop Cooper Kupp, but if he's your last guy, you have to consider it. I would say Trey Tucker because he's a startable player this week. I'm not starting Cooper Kupp this week. So if you need a starter and he is your bottom player on your bench in terms of receivers, I would drop him for Trey Tucker, and that's about it. In terms of Torrey Horton, it would be a 50-50 on who you would like, although I would start Torrey Horton over Cooper Kupp. Being that it's a very limited case of picking up someone out there who you can get better than Kupp right now, he's on our short list, but I think we're going to hold on to Cooper Kupp at least one more week. Hold! All right, we have Kayshon Boutte. Kayshon Boutte. Get it together and bring it back to me. All right, Kayshon Boutte was on my team, and I was on tilt towards the end of the week with all the injuries, trying to get ahead of some guys who might pop before they become expensive. So I dropped Boutte for Isaac Tesla. In terms of what Tesla did, that was a mistake. Hopefully, I can get him back on my roster for cheapskis here. But nonetheless, I don't really value him at this point any more than the Trey Tuckers, Torrey Hortons, Christian Watsons. I think they're all in the same boat here. Trey Tucker's probably realistically ahead, but I kind of do like the Patriots passing game right now. The only thing is here, Drake May is really spreading the ball around. He is not hyper targeting any one receiver, but if he ever focuses in, I think Kayshon Boutte is the best receiver on the team if May ever gets some tunnel vision. But right now, he's worth rostering. But he's not any better than any other speculative ad. If you really want to start this week and need Trey Tucker, unfortunately, Kayshon Boutte is someone you can let go.
It's time to go!
And this one is interesting. I wouldn't have let him go, but actually I've heard some chatter in other platforms, but in our league, Travis Hunter was let go. The manager who drafted him has been frustrated with the lack of production, and I don't blame Hunter. I blame Trevor Lawrence, as he is not even getting Brian Thomas, a first-round pick going. It's been pretty slow-moving offense here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The running game has been the best part of their offense. The passing game has been nearly non-existent. I have to ask this question because he actually was dropped. Would you guys drop Travis Hunter out there for someone like Trey Tucker? I don't think I could do it. I'm going to hold on to Travis Hunter. All right, guys, we have just finished our first phase of our Wingman Jam. Let's see who Bernie and I selected last week. Let's see who won, and let's see who's at the top of the standings after 3 weeks and who earned themselves a seat in the Showcase Showdown, which will take place in week number 7.
Wingman Fantasy Football.
Wingman Jam with Bernie the Bounty Hunter and Amazing Spidey. Boom shakalaka. Minnesota Vikings. Atlanta Falcons. Round 1. Fight! What's brunch? You'll love it. Not quite breakfast, not quite lunch, but it comes with a slice of cantaloupe at the end. You don't get completely what you would at breakfast, but you get a good meal. Spidey wins! All right, I take this one over Bernie with the Minnesota Vikings over the Atlanta Falcons. Let's check in on what our audience members selected out here. We have Andrew F. selected the Philadelphia Eagles and got a combined points of 38.54 points with Barkley and Hurts. And Austin F. took the other bird team here. We have the Ravens with Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson. Jackson held up his part of the bargain. Flowers was shut down, 29.32 points for Austin. The final standings after 3 weeks has Andrew F. on top with 10 points. He placed all 3 weeks, getting 1 first-place finish, 1 second-place finish. Austin F. was in second with 8 points. He also placed all 3 times, getting 1 first-place finish, 2 third-place finishes. Bernie and I tied at 6 points a pop here, and Ken, who played in the first week, is at the bottom. So earning their seat into the Showcase Showdown is Andrew F, with 10 points. Friendly reminder here for those players who played along, your participation points will carry over. So Austin will have 3 points starting off in the next phase. Ken will start off with 1. Bernie and I will drop those points as we're playing every week. So we're starting from scratch. And Andrew will also start from scratch since he's already earned himself a seat. So let's keep it going. Who's going to earn that second seat for that head-to-head battle to earn a prize, maybe some Wingman Fantasy Football merch or a gift card? It'll be the choice of the winner. So congratulations to Andrew, who made his way into the Showcase Showdown. Now we have 3 weeks to see who can earn that second seat in the Showcase Showdown in Week 7. All right, guys, it is now time to preview our Thursday night game where we have the Seattle Seahawks at the Arizona Cardinals. This game will be at 8:15 p.m. Let's get some numbers here before we talk about the players. The over-under for this game is a modest 43.5 points. Arizona is a favorite of negative. They have a negative point favorite for the Arizona Cardinals here. What players are we considering must starts, maybe starts, or benches? Let's start with the players, the main guys here for Arizona. We have Kyler Murray at quarterback, Marvin Harrison Jr. at wide receiver, Trey Benson at running back, and Trey McBride of Frankenstein at tight end.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
All right, players here, I don't see any must starts on the Arizona side. If you play a dedicated tight end position, then Trey McBride is a must start. If he is a flex and or wide receiver, he's a probably start, but not a must start. All right, let's rank these guys here. Kyler Murray, I am looking for other options. He's a decent play. He's not the worst option. You can start him, but I'm looking up and down my roster for different options here. I would even consider playing someone like Geno Smith in a plus matchup against the Chicago Bears over Kyler Murray. For a handful of reasons. I think that's a better matchup, obviously. And 2, I like to avoid Thursday night games as often as possible. When it comes to the receiver, Marvin Harrison, we just had a whole rant about this guy. I'm looking my best to try and find other options here. Again, you can play him here. He does go up and down. Sometimes he does get games he performs well when you're not expecting it. I don't like the roller coaster of Marvin Harrison. Honestly, I'd rather play someone like Trey Tucker, and again, in that plus matchup against the Chicago Bears. So I think Marvin Harrison is no better than a streaming matchup play here, and I don't like his matchup over some of the other guys out there. Trey Benson, this one's a little trickier. If you spent money on him, you got to put him in your lineup. You got to justify the price you paid to pick him up. But if he is your 4th running back on your team and you already had him, I'm looking for other options. I mentioned it before. I don't think he's particularly good. I'm not saying he's awful. I just don't think he's very good here. So I wouldn't break the bank for Trey Benson unless you literally had no one on your team to play, because he is going to be on the field. So he is a starter in that regard, but he is not the best starter you could pick if you have better options. We mentioned Trey McBride. I think you could play him as well. If I have to rank these players, I'm ranking them Trey McBride. Is it Trey Benson, Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison in that order on this team. Now let's get to the Seattle Seahawks. A little more interesting choices here. Some of these are 50-50 plays on the same team for the same position. Let's start with players we're considering. At the quarterback position, Sam Darnold got off to a slow start in week 1, but the last 2 weeks he's creeping up back to his Minnesota form. He's been a decent play. I consider him a streaming type play, ranked in that 11, 12 to 16, 17 quarterback range. And once again, with the Thursday night game, that moves him in the back half of that ranking, in my opinion, as that is just a tiebreaker for me. I'm not looking to play people on that Thursday night game. Once again, I'd rather play someone like Geno Smith. I'd even rather play Tua on Monday night over Sam Darnold. Some people might disagree. I'm just saying that's the kind of line where we're at. Darnold and Kyler are streaming type players, and the Thursday night game is a negative tiebreaker. All right, now to the running backs here. We had Ken Walker was a dud in week 1. He was effective in week 2. Zach Charbonnet missed week 3, and Ken Walker once again was effective with 2 touchdowns, even though he did not have a lot of yards. Charbonnet, though, as we mentioned in the news, is already practicing in full. Both these guys should be active. Now what do? We're stuck once again, as Charbonnet was the lead back in terms of fantasy points in week 1 and Walker in week 2 when they were both healthy. I don't know what to do here, guys. If I had to pick one, I'm going with Walker, as he has the more home run games to go with here. But I'm looking for other options if I can find them. Let's put it this way. I would not play Benson over Walker. I'd rather play Walker. Since Benson was the type of guy you picked up on the waiver wire, I'm going to stick with Walker. I'm trying to think if there's any obvious matchups. Here's one that might pop up here. Would you rather play Ken Walker or Breece Hall? Breece Hall playing against Miami, on Monday night. I'd rather play Breece Hall, but they're pretty even. So that's kind of the line here. So Ken Walker is a top 14 running back here. Depends on what you like, in between 9 and 18. So you probably have to play him. It's going to be pretty hard to justify sitting him here. The only question is he going to get more work than Zach Charbonnet? That is the question that we don't like, but you have to consider it. All right, now going to the only automatic start in this entire game, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Put him in your lineup. No questions asked. Let's move on. Other receivers for the same game and the same team, we have Torrey Horton and Cooper Kupp. Probably avoiding both these guys here because it's just a little, you don't want to play 3 receivers out of this team. But if I was forced to play any one of those 2, I'm leaning Torrey Horton over Cooper Kupp. We mentioned before, I don't know that I would drop Cooper Kupp for Horton, but if I had them both already or was able to acquire Horton without dropping Kupp, I've got Horton ranked higher than Kupp this week. All right, guys, I apologize that Bernie wasn't able to join me for the end of the show here. He was with me. We just had a really bad recording here, and instead of trying to piece it together, I just decided to do a retake by myself. So thank you, guys. Thank you so much for joining us in another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League podcast. Don't forget, you can find us on all your favorite popular podcast platforms. Just search Wingman the League, and we'll come to the top of your search. When you're there, guys, hit that follow button, leave a 5-star review, and let us know how we can improve. Let's see. And if you want to see our beautiful faces, our choppy video, all of our mess ups and all that other stuff here, you can go to our YouTube channel at wingmanfantasyfootball.com/YouTube. When you go over there, guys, do me the favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and do me a favor. Go ahead, leave a comment, and we'll get you in our next mailbag segment. I also want to remind you guys, in our next show, we will break down 3 featured games to preview players, whether we should start, sit, or question marks here. But you guys get to pick which games we're going to go over. The top 3 mentioned games we'll get into our next show. So in the comment, let us know what game you want to talk about. We've got some good ones here. We've got as a Green Bay and Dallas. Is that this week? That's interesting. We also got the Dolphins and Jets. I know we got a lot of Dolphins fans out there, but if you're sick of the Dolphins, let us know what other games you want us to break down, and we will do just that for you. All right, guys, with that being said, may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty, and we will see you next time.